Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and high. Whoop, Mr. Motorama coffee.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. Get ready, the show's about to begin.
Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast. This is episode 142, or season 3, episode 38. Ha! I had to do the math in my head, but I got it. Season 3, episode 38. And if this is your first time joining the show, I am the incredible Jeff. And I'd love it if you took a second and followed us on social media at Fueled by Deathcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. That's where you can find a lot of extra content, a lot of fun stuff that we do outside of just the podcast, and all sorts of cool stuff that Fueled by Deathcast is getting its hands into, including upcoming guests and interviews and clips and all that. Also, if you're just listening to this on your favorite podcast listening place, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, wherever it is, or watching it in full video on the Death Wish Coffee Company YouTube page, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. By hitting that button, we get more people to be able to check out the show, you get notified every time we come out with new content here at Fueled by Deathcast. And everything at Fueled by Deathcast is due in part to the voice of death himself, Brock Powell. Brock is the voice actor on this show, and he does 1,000 voices out there in the world. You can follow his journey in the world of voice acting across all social media at BrockVox and also at BrockVox.com. I love Brock Powell to death, and I can't wait to see him again.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
And you heard Brock right there. A fan of this show and everything we do, you get a special secret discount code. All one word, discount of Jeff. Type that in at deathwishcoffee.com at the checkout after you've picked up your favorite bag of coffee, whatever cool merchandise you see, maybe a mug. And then at checkout, type in discount of death, and you'll save 12% off your order for being a fan of Fueled by Deathcast. One more time, that is discount of Jeff, all one word, for 12% off your order at deathwishcoffee.com. It's that time of year again, and it is football season. The NFL is going to be in full swing as this episode hits, and there's no better way to kick it off than with the father of the mother of content herself, Shannon Sweeney. Mr. Jim Sweeney is on the show this week, and I'm so excited to bring you this interview. We got Jim to come in to the studio, and I got to talk to him in person about his career in the NFL. He played 16 seasons in the NFL, 11 of those seasons for the New York Jets, and is still considered one of the most consistent offensive linemen that club has ever seen. He got to play with some of the greats throughout his career, and it was really cool to talk to him about not only playing in the NFL, but now, later in his career, being a coach for the University of Albany football team and melding young minds and young men into, hopefully, future NFL stars as well. And, it was really cool to just talk all things football with Jim, and I hope you guys enjoyed as well. So mugs up this week for this week's death guest, former NFL star, Jim Sweeney.
The Fueled by Death guest.
Jim, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And I kind of want to start out in present day. Right now, you are the currently the offensive line coach for the University of Albany, correct?
Correct.
How long? When did you start that position?
This will be my 6th season. Coaching, more like 16 years. I did some high school. I did Duquesne University when I first retired from the NFL. But the head coach, which was Greg Gattuso, went on to Pitt in Maryland, and I was raising kids, so I didn't have time to do it as a full-time. So I did local high schools for about 10 years, and I also trained guys getting ready for the NFL draft.
Oh, wow. And now you're coaching college. And I read in an interview with you, I believe it was recent, you were talking about how when the idea of coaching came into your head, you always thought about college. You never wanted to really coach NFL. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed college. NFL's a different game now. It's a different animal. I like to coach kids to get them to that next level, see if we can get someone to the NFL. That, to me, would be more rewarding. I mean, it would be fun to coach the top offensive lineman in America. I mean, I've helped guys get there. I helped them a little bit. They were already going to be there. I just helped them a little bit. And most of those guys are retired now. That's how long ago I did it. But, I mean, I just like college. I mean, to get a young man to look at you as a mentor, as a father figure, as a coach, and they feed on every word that you say. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Do you draw from any coaches, like any practices that you observed either in the NFL or when you were in college?
I mean, I have a whole list of coaches that, I pick and choose from each one of them. There are things I agreed with. There were things that I didn't agree with, but I still value their opinions. It just reiterates what I'm trying to do. And, I mean, my college coaches, they have a national award named after them, Joe Moore Award, that they give out to the top offensive line in America. Wow. That was my college coach. My high school coach, Coach O'Neill, texts me every game. He texts me birthdays. He just texted me the other day. I had a friend. We played when we were in high school. I grew up with a guy named Glenn Streno as well, who played at the University of Tennessee. He ended up being a center there as well. Well, they do this countdown by numbers, and his number was also 53, so that for 53 days out from the season, they highlighted Glenn. So I just actually texted Glenn this morning, but I originally got it from my high school line coach. So, I mean, I've had great coaches all through my career, grade school, high school, college. My first pro coach was Jim Ringo, who was a Hall of Famer from the Green Bay Packers. Dan Radakovich, who was the architect of the Steelers line, was one of my coaches. Larry Bechtel was probably my favorite coach just because I could mess with him the most. He was about 5'6", round, and he had yellow teeth. So, but no, I love Larry, and I still talk to him. So I've had a whole list. Howard Mudd, who's pretty well known around the NFL, he was one of my coaches. So, I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of great coaches. Players as well. I learned a lot from players. A gentleman by the name of Joe Fields took me under his wing when I was a rookie with the Jets and taught me a lot about how to play the game as well. And, and I got to pass that on to – it's sort of neat that a guy that I played with in Seattle, Kevin Mawai, is being inducted to the Hall of Fame August 3rd. So
that's excellent.
I sort of took him under my wing, and what Joe Fields did with me, I did with Kevin. Even though it was just 1 year, I mean, he still gives me a lot of credit.
Ray Donaldson, Jim Sweeney, Howard Ballard, and Eugene Robinson, you taught me how to be professionals as a young player.
That's so cool. And I read a recent article actually from the University of Albany where you said something that really stuck with me, is where you deal with your players like they're in the NFL.
Correct.
And you coach them that way. And I think that is so important when you're talking about, melding young men into, making them football players. Why not deal with them like they're the professionals right now?
I mean, why would you teach them something that's not the way it should be? I mean, I have my way. I mean, like I said, I got to pick and choose from a lot of great coaches, put my own spin on it, and try to teach it the way I want, do it the way I did as a player. Be honest with you, when I coached my son's Pop Warner team, I actually taught those guys. I wouldn't teach them bad habits. Why would you want to teach someone a bad habit that they're going to have to break eventually?
Yeah.
My biggest concern always is safety. So I try to teach the game from a safety aspect. The way I teach it, it might be a little old school, but I think it's the safest way to do it.
Yeah, and like you said, and I think that's really important, is, in any sport, if you learn something not the way that it's going to be when you hit that professional level, then you 100% have to change, and that is a detriment to your game. That's a detriment to the team that you're on. Like, it
may be too late too, where you don't have time to change it. When you get to the NFL, I mean, every year they're bringing in players to replace you as well.
Right.
So if you can't pick it up, it doesn't matter which round you're picked in. If If you can't do what they're asking, they're going to get rid of you. There's only probably 12, 11 offensive linemen on a roster, and that's counting maybe guys that are on practice squad. Right. There's not a whole lot of spots in the NFL for offensive linemen. So my goal is to get one of my players. There may be a kid here from Saratoga, Griffin Clancy, who's going to be a senior this year. He may have a shot this year. He's a big kid. Try to get him to some bowl games this year. So at the end of the year, and we'll see where that goes. Wow. That would be great, because I've seen Griff since he was a junior in high school, and I've been with the young man for 6 years now. And if we can get him into a camp, that would be a feather in my cap.
Oh wow! Well, here's hoping, because that's just great, and it's so great to hear you talk about your duties as a coach, because you still have a love for the game, and you have a love for imparting the knowledge that you've learned from playing professionally and in college and everything on this younger generation. And I think that's very important.
Yeah, I mean, I've always stated that I enjoy coaching more than I did playing. I mean,
really?
I knew what I could do as a player. I mean, I loved the game. I was able to make coaches come out, we need you to play this position. I just did it. And so I got to play all 5 positions. In fact, I played 6 positions by the time I retired, because I actually started at tight end my last game against the Titans. And so that's 6 positions. And so I understand the subtle idiosyncrasies between each position. So I'm able to relate that through coaching about hand placement, foot placement, eye placement, all the little things that go into blocking. And I think my kids respect that, because they understand that I've been through the trenches. I've been there, so I know what they're experiencing. And I've always told them, there's probably not a scenario out there that I haven't experienced that's not going to pop up that I'm going to know about.
Wow.
I mean, there's always a chance, but, I mean, you figure over a 16-year career plus 4 major colleges, there's a lot of football being played.
Yeah. And, I'm just so proud of the Albany football organization, and they're so lucky to have you as part of their organization.
Well, see, I look at it the other way. I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky that they want me here, because getting into coaching profession, it's a tough gig now. It's not easy at any level. So for them to want me here, I feel privileged to be here, to be honest with you.
That's awesome. So let's take it all the way back. I know as a kid, your father was very instrumental in getting you into sports and that kind of thing. And I always wonder about this question, especially with people who make it to the professional level, because as a child, I played some sports. I played baseball and stuff like that, but I never had that moment where I was like, I want to pursue this as a career. I want to give that a shot. Was there a moment in your childhood where that happened, where you were? It wasn't just I'm playing football with my friends and now I actually maybe want to do it?
To be honest with you, I just thought it was normal. I thought all kids did it, that all kids went on to play high school, college, professional. I didn't realize the higher you go, the harder it is. It just never dawned on me. And I look at it, hey, maybe it was a gift from God. It is a gift from God. And I really didn't want to waste his talents, because I'll probably be dead a lot longer than I'll ever be alive. And I don't want to, get to the pearly gates and, hey, you wasted my gifts. So I tried to do it right. I tried to do it as long as I could. So, but I always thought that it was normal. I just didn't realize how lucky I was. I mean, I was blessed to have some talent, and you couldn't hurt me. So that was probably the biggest thing.
And you grew up in a great football area, Pittsburgh.
Without a doubt, yes.
I mean, some of the greatest football players ever have come out of that area, and it seems like there's something in the water that breeds just football.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. I mean, you figure the work ethic of Pittsburgh back in the 60s and 70s, you had the mills. A lot of people were more blue-collar than white-collar, which isn't a bad thing. And the neighborhoods were ethnic groups, you have Polish Hill, you have all the Irish lived in the Oakland, and just had areas like that. But for the most part, everything was still intermixed. But I mean, it was just we had the Steelers. I mean, they weren't good in the '60s, but all of a sudden in the '70s, that's where Dan Radakovich was the line coach.
Yeah.
I mean, they started putting some teams together and bringing in some great players, and they made Sundays fun, and then. they start winning, so everybody wants to be a Pittsburgh Steeler guy. Because I can remember in 4th grade for an art project, I drew myself as a Pittsburgh Steeler. The only thing I did wrong was I drew myself as a defensive lineman. I realized I had more talent to play offense than play defense. That's a shot at my head coach because he's a defensive guy.
That's awesome. Do you still have that drawing?
Well, no, I don't. No. But I can vividly remember it. I was drawing. I was a defensive end. So
that's incredible. That's something. It's a tenement I've talked about a lot on this show, where I really believe that if you put something out into the universe, it's the seed that starts that journey. Whether or not you make it to that finish line is all on you, really. But I mean, like, you in 4th grade drawing yourself as a professional football player, as a Steeler, you know, like, you put that out into the universe.
And that's where I ended up.
And eventually that's where you ended up, which is incredible. But before
I don't know if it's incredible or it was just luck.
I think there's some universal type
yeah,
stuff
there could
in
be.
there.
Yeah. I'm not that smart, so I can't claim that. Know the universe.
Well, you went to Pitt,
Correct,
and you played football in Pitt. But you also went to college there. What did you have a plan if football didn't work out? Did you have a plan, like a backup plan?
No,
it was always football.
No, I just figured that, again, I wasn't smart enough to figure out that what I was doing was maybe something special. I just thought that that's the way it was done, and I mean, playing at Pitt, I mean, there were #1 draft picks. We had Mark May, who was from Oneonta, New York. Russ Grimm, who was a 3rd-round pick, who was in the Hall of Fame. Bill Fralick, God rest his soul, was a #1 pick. Jim Covert was a #1 pick from the Chicago Bears. And, of course, Joe Moore was there. So everybody that played for Joe Moore went on to the pros. So I just figured it was natural. So I was lucky that to have him as a coach, and I took to his coaching, and I had great players around me. We had Dan Marino was the quarterback.
You were snapping at Dan Marino.
Yeah. I have to have some pretty famous hands on my backside, so and not getting in any trouble for it. But I mean, we had great guys on defense. Hugh Green was the highest at that time. Was the highest vote getter for the Heisman Trophy for a defensive lineman, and Ricky Jackson, who's in the Hall of Fame. And, I mean, we were just loaded with talent. But, again, that was the essence of Pittsburgh. That was football.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not. I think it is. There's more players in Hall of Fame from Western PA than anywhere in the country.
I would believe it.
Yeah. I mean, you figure there's 5 or 6 quarterbacks. And people don't realize that some of these quarterbacks were Western PA, but that's where a lot of good football players go. And there's still good football there. I mean, this is because I get to recruit being a college coach, and Western PA is still one of my areas, and there's still a ton of talent coming out of Western PA. It might not be as many kids, but there is that much talent there.
Yeah. And so you're playing in college, and you played, correct me if I'm wrong, you played 3 seasons for Pitt, right?
4 years.
4 years.
I mean, I snapped punts my freshman year, but my sophomore year I was a backup, but I started my junior and senior year.
So junior and senior year, and then you're drafted directly out of there into the Jets organization. Take me to that moment. Like, the draft is such a, for lack of a better term, a circus now. And like nowadays it is. And in the early 80s, it still had some of that. But I mean, you, like you said, from childhood was just like, this is the lay of the land. I'm going to play football until I hopefully make it like professional. When you get that notification that you've been drafted to the Jets organization, was it just business as usual, or did you take a moment to take it all in? And
I mean, it was something special. Again, I wasn't smart enough to realize how special it was. I just thought it was something
everybody did
that was happening. It was just the way it was supposed to be, and that's when ESPN started doing the drafts. And it's not like now where everybody comes out on stage. The only thing they did at the hotel, the Marriott in New York City, so it was just the scouts and the organizations there giving cards to Pete Rozelle, and you were waiting for a phone call. So the draft started about 7:30. There was only how many teams were there? I think there was only 16.
16, I think, at that point.
Yeah, at that point. And no, it was more than that. There had to be more than 16 teams.
83 was a long time ago.
How many are now? 32?
It's something like that.
28.
Yeah.
There was 28. So, yeah, because I was the 37th pick. I was the 9th pick in the second round. So they started at 7:30, and there were some rumors that maybe I could go in the first round. It didn't happen.
Right.
Second round's pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
So about noon, 12:30, I got a call from Joe Walton, who was a Pittsburgher. He was a Pitt guy. He was the head coach of the Jets, and he says, "How would you like to be a Jet?" I said, "Absolutely." And from there on, it was like full go. So, and then the next couple of days, I was on a plane. You're in New York. In fact, I was at Game 7 on our trip here for I guess it was a mini camp. Was Game 7. The Islanders were playing the Canadians for going for their 5th cup.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I got a chance to go in the Nassau Coliseum and watch Game 7. So
Whoa.
I'm a big hockey fan.
Yeah.
Big Penguin fan.
Yeah. Of course.
Yes.
Of course. So was it any different? Was it like a big jump from playing at Pitt and then playing at the professional level for the Jets?
It was because football's football. I mean, blocking. There are skills to it, but learning systems, but understanding the game as a whole. When I was at Pitt, when I played center, I made all the calls, but I really didn't understand why I was making the calls, other than I knew how to make the calls. But when I got to the Jets, Joe Field said, "Nah, when you're here, you got to know what's going on across the board. And you got to know quarterback drops. You got to know where your help's coming from. You got to know how many people are like formations and personnel." He says, "The more you know, the easier the game is." And there's a lot of merit to that. It actually slows the game down, because that's what they always talk about. The speed of the game increases. But if you understand what's going on around you, the speed of the game tends to slow down, and you can understand more, because there's only so many things the defense can do. And the more you can in golf, and the more information you can bring in, the easier the game becomes.
Wow, that's really.
There are no dumb guys playing football. Trust me.
Oh, no. I'm sure of it. It's such a game that is so much more mental than you actually see when you watch it live or on television.
Because then you also have to be able to make split decisions, changes in the middle of a play.
Yeah.
And in fact, my first line coach, Jim Ringo, was always talking about the moment of truth is when it's 4th and 1 and you're on the 1-inch line. All of a sudden the defense changes. Do you know what to do? Because if you don't, you lose.
Right.
And if you know what to do, you win. And that's the bottom line.
Wow. So you go on to play, correct me if I'm wrong, 11 seasons for the Jets?
Correct.
And you are constantly lauded as one of the most consistent centers that the organization have ever seen. And you, speaking on consistency, you started almost 158 games, I think it was 160 games, something like that. How do you stay healthy to get all of those starts throughout that point in your career? Because again, playing center, it's not like, everybody on the offensive line obviously has their job to do and has to go against that defensive line. But it is with 100% certainty that center is gonna be up against a guy every single play. You are gonna get hit every single time that ball is snapped. How do you stay healthy? How do you get those starts?
Again, great coaches. My strength coach at Pitt was Buddy Morris, who's now with the Arizona Cardinals. He's one of the most renowned names in the strength and conditioning business. So I had him, and then I had when I was during the off season, I would go back to Pitt and work out with him. And then when you got with your professional teams, now it's year round where you have to live in the area, where back then we could go home and come back for mini camp, then come back in summer camp. So they sort of left it up to you. And I just had great guys who I used to work out with. I used to go to this Gold's Gym in Pittsburgh, which is now Life Force, and the people that own the gym, they're still friends. There was always good guys working out there, so I was always – and it was basically on my own. But, again, it was more of a religion back then. Now I'm a workout atheist, as you can tell by the spare tire around my gut.
Hey, you put your time in. It's okay. It's
That's
okay.
Right. Yeah. But, I was basically left up to me. They always said, hey – come back in May. If you want a job, come back in shape. So they left it up to you. They didn't take you by the hand. So there's some merit to letting you be a man about it. And if you want this job, then you got to do what it takes that keep the job. Because every year, again, they're going to bring people in to take your job. And eventually they're going to bring someone in. And it does happen no matter how long you play. It's not what you did for me. It's what can you do for me. So that's the motto of every player in the NFL should have, that hey, eventually they're going to bring somebody in to replace you, because that's just the nature of the game.
It's the nature of the game.
That's
you can't
why,
play forever.
That's why I didn't want to waste any time, because I knew eventually it's like a ride at Kennywood. It's an amusement park in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And once you get on that Thunderbolt, you're going to have a ton of fun while you're on it, but eventually you're going to have to get off. And that's sort of what an NFL career is like. You got your ups and downs, and you have a ton of fun, and eventually you do have to get off.
Wow. That's really great. It's very inspiring to hear something like that. And then moving from the Jets, I believe it was the 94-95 season you went
95
to
Seattle.
95, you went to Seattle. Was it a different monster playing on the West Coast as opposed to the East Coast, or was it just football?
100%.
Yeah?
I mean, everything was later. Dennis Erickson was the head coach, who was a pretty well-known name. Howard Mudd was my line coach, who I didn't always agree with, but I always respect, and I still love to this day. I mean, he was another guy that if I need something, I'll call him. I was only there to one season, again, because Kevin Mawai was at guard. They wanted him to play center, it was a good choice because he's going to Canton in about 3 weeks. So, I mean, but I was only there a year, and then I got a chance to come home and play. I was a backup, but it was still a chance to be part of an organization for 4 more years. And it gave me a chance to retire on my terms, because that's when it's easy. When you're forced out of the game by an injury, or you get cut and you think you can still play, that's when it weighs on your mind. But with me, I had enough. I was getting off the roller coaster because I knew it was time.
You hung up your cleats on your own.
On my own terms. And that's probably why I was at ease with it.
That's great. And speak a little bit about that. Being able to come back to the place that you grew up and be that kid in 4th grade, drawing yourself as a Steeler, and now you get to play for the Steelers. Like, did you have any way of tipping that scale to make that happen, or was that a surprise?
Maybe a little bit. My high school coach at the time when I was in high school, was the general manager of the Steelers. Again, I've had a lot of great people around me. It was tough for me to fail. Really, it was. So Coach Donahoe was the general manager of the Steelers. And he told me, he says, "Hey, we can bring you in, but you still have to make the team." I said, "I'll make the team." And then I got a chance to play 4 more years. And then when coming into the last game, I needed 2 surgeries in the offseason. Wasn't playing that much. And the reason I came back for 15 would have been great, is I broke my foot in my 15th year. Ooh. And again, I didn't want to retire on an injury, because that'll weigh heavy on your mind. So I said, if I can come back and get 1 more year in and walk away from the game on my terms, that would be a career. And that I was able to do that.
That's so exciting. And I mean, through all of it, that kind of leads me into the theme of this show. Through your career, through up until even this point where you get to shape young minds and are coaching at an incredible organization like U of Albany, and everything that you've done, what fuels you to keep doing it, to keep having passion for it, and to keep getting out there and doing what you do?
I mean, I just love the sport. I mean, it's a total team sport. In college, you get pretty much of a turnover, because you only get the guys for mostly 5 years, and again, they're maturing years, and to see a young 17-year-old, 18-year-old come in as a young kid, and all of a sudden 5 years later he's 22, 23, leaving as a young man. But the only thing is, they're walking out there with degrees, because not everybody makes it, obviously, but they can make it in life. I've had some great. I inherited a bunch of great guys who are out in the world now, teaching, corrections officer, in sales, working in the city. I mean, just all different facets of life. But they always come back, and when they see you, it's like, "Hey, Coach, how you doing, man?" And it's like, hey, it's like they never left. I mean, some guys. I mean, I have one guy right now. He wants to go into the military. He wants to go into military intelligence. He was just a brilliant kid, and he was about 6'8". He's still 6'8", but he was about 300 pounds. He's down to like 235. I mean, he looks like a beanpole. But I says, how do you lose weight? I gain weight. So, but it's fun. I mean, as long as you make an impression on people and they come back, I mean, I think I know I'm doing my job then if they come back and say, you were very positive in my life and you're one of the reasons why I'm successful at what I'm doing. And that's probably why you do coaching.
That's excellent. That's inspiring, too. And it also seems like everything throughout your entire career, what you've been talking about, it seems like football is a family. Like, it seems like you kind of become really intertwined with the players that you play with, the coaches that you're around, even the opposing teams, like, because you still are in contact with a lot of these guys, like from your career,
Yes.
from high school, from college, and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you do, and not that you have to talk every day, but when you eventually you'll cross paths, and it's like it seems like you just saw them yesterday, and that's what football does for you. That's why maybe that's why I love it so much, because I do love my friends. I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of great people in my life, and they're still instrumental in my life. And not that I get to talk to them all the time. I mean, I just surprised. Actually, Shannon's godfather. I was recruiting in Pittsburgh, and I was in West Virginia, and he lives near the West Virginia-Pennsylvania border. So on my way back, I stopped at his house, and I just recently cut my hair. I let it grow for about a year for a reason, but he kept saying, get your hair cut, get your hair cut. So I FaceTime and say, hey, I got my hair cut. Look who cut my hair, and it was his wife. He goes, so I was at his house, so he wasn't home. So he come over, and it was good to see him again, but I haven't seen him in a while, and his name is Ben Woods, and that's Shannon's godfather. And so there's all my friends are still pretty much part of my life, and got him to drink Death Wish coffee too. He ordered it online. So, but I mean, I was whenever family, it is about family. It's about making relationships, and when coaching now, people are entrusting their sons to me. So I take it as these are now my kids, and I always tell people I have 5 kids at home, but I have 18 kids at work, and first thing I tell their parents, especially the mothers, is your son's safety is my biggest concern. So I will never ask him to do something that I never did as a player or would put him in harm's way. I just don't believe in that.
That's excellent. That is excellent. And, even at throwing it back full circle, speaking of, friends that you've had in the game, people that you still are connected with, your best friend from childhood is Greg, correct?
Correct.
Who is your head coach at U Albany.
He's my boss.
Your boss, full circle. But, I mean, you guys came up together. Shannon was telling me while you were playing at Pitt, he was playing at Penn?
Penn State.
Penn State? So
that's where she went.
So you guys were rivals technically then, right?
It got even better than that.
Oh.
I was the center, he was the nose guard, so we played directly across from one another.
What was that like?
Believe it or not, we didn't say anything. Everybody thought that we would talk to one another, and it wasn't like that. It was business. If everybody else was talking about it, we didn't have to. And we knew. Everybody knew we were friends. But it probably wasn't just isolated to that one scenario, because Pitt and Penn State were pretty prominent programs at the time. Between 76 and 86, those 10 years, at one time during the season, Pitt or Penn State was number 1 in the country. So, and usually the other team was in the top 10. So if you didn't go to Pitt, you went to Penn State and vice versa. So there were a lot of relationships, I'm sure, like that, where high school kids were playing against each other. It was just, we were so close. I mean, you couldn't get any closer unless you're in the same huddle than we were on the offensive line. But we really didn't want to say anything. Again, everybody else was talking about it. We didn't feel the need to. So, but it is funny how now he is my boss, and he hates when I say that. So that's why I say it. He's my boss.
Well, I mean, but again, it's it's that full circle thing where you guys are just kids, just playing football,
and we're still just kids,
and you're still just kids, but now you're working together, and it's
we've
incredible.
been together 51 years.
That's incredible.
I mean, we actually started out as rival kindergartners. We were at the same times, just different rooms. And I always tell kids when recruiting them that we're like the 2 old guys in the Muppet Show, Statler and Waldorf. Yeah, that's Greg and I.
That is excellent. That is excellent. I want to ask like a little bit on your NFL career. This is kind of like a two-sided question. Do you look back at any point in that career fondly, like maybe games or plays or players that you used to get to play against that you really liked? And then the second part of that question is do you use any of your career to help coach the kids that you coach?
I mean, looking back, I don't regret anything. I mean, I wasn't meant to win a championship. That's fine, but I got to play 16 years, and I got to play a lot of plays. So I don't have any regrets. I love all the guys that I played with. I've played against some of the greatest guys who people have enshrined in the Hall of Fame, and I held my own.
Any plays ever stick out to you? Any games or anything that you?
There are. I mean, I actually show my kids plays at times about how I want things done, and it gives me a little, a boost too. About like there's times there's a play I had against Mike Singletary on Monday Night Football, where I just drove him about 10 yards and dumped him. But I also showed him plays where John Offerdahl knocked me on my can too. But the next play I ran a defensive back down on an interception. So I says, what you don't do is you don't stay down. I say everybody gets knocked down, and at times you get to knock people down. So I want to show them both perspectives. But I don't show them a whole lot, but I do show them plays.
1st and 10, Jets from their own 31-yard line. And it's Roger Vick. Stopped near the line of scrimmage at the 30-yard line, and it's John Bosa, who's been taking some heat. He's the #1 draft choice, was a holdout, signed late, and they're making a big issue over the fact that he does not have a sack this season.
Although that's something that's really not bothering Don Shula. He says, I know that's the type of thing that's going to come. There's John Offerdahl, and that is how you take on a blocker, as he just puts the hurt to Jim Sweeney, the left tackle, and in on the play as well. But the disruption initially came from John Bosa. Good 2-3 yards in the backfield.
Inside the 20, the 10, and
was trying to work. Kenny O'Brien trying to work the ball to the outside. Doesn't see Langford. You see him react back from the inside. And without being seen, it's a sprint to the goal line, and boy, he'll take a little ribbing from his teammates about not getting into the end zone. Being caught.
Coaching, I coached the way I played. I mean, to play 16 years, to come out of it healthy, I mean, I must have did something right. So why would I teach something that I didn't do? It just wouldn't make sense. Again, safety is my biggest concern. There's a reason why kids commit to Albany that all of a sudden they're mine. And I take it as a personal responsibility that they're going to walk out of there with a degree. And the key word is walk. So I'm going to coach them hard. I'm going to coach them the way I want because I think they'll have success at it. And again, when they look at you, when you instruct them and teach them and mold them how to do certain blocks, then they do it and they do it right and they turn and look at you and you go, got it. See, I wouldn't lie to you.
That's awesome. That is so inspiring. Finally, going into the NFL season here this year, having the career that you did, but also being from Pittsburgh, is it tough to watch the NFL now and root for just a single team? Do you always root for the Steelers, or is it the Jets, or is it
to be honest with you, we don't get to watch much football because we're working on Sundays for the next opponent, and we have 12 games this year. I mean, we're going to have a good team this year at Albany.
So we're rooting for you of Albany.
We got some key acquisitions in. We got some transfers in. We've had some guys in the program now for 5 years, and we got to make some noise. I mean, it's time. We've had some close battles, but you don't get points for moral victories, and so we need to step it up a little bit this year, and that's on the coaches, and we'll respond. But I mean, as far as watching NFL games, I really don't get to watch. I mean, I do at the end of the year, but I mean, I got to watch the Jets. They're the ones that gave me my chance. I still have friends that work with the Jets, but I mean, Steelers are okay. I mean, they're going to win. They're a perennial powerhouse. But I mean, there's guys coached like Mike Vrabel is the head coach of Tennessee now. I was a teammate with in the Steelers, so I get to watch him. And Mike Mularkey's an assistant coach who was a head coach. So there's still guys that I've had crossed paths with during my career that they're coaching, so I get to watch them. One of my best friends, who's actually from Rome, New York, is Tom Myslinski. He's the strength coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I stay in touch with him the most. So I'll watch the Jaguars, and so I'll root for them. But I'm just a football fan.
Like I said, that's what's great about you is that, you know, at the end of the day, football is football, and that's what you're rooting for.
Right, and whatever level. I mean, I get a chance to go to Shen High School and watch them play on our bye week, so I'll go. I mean, I just love watching it. I mean, I'll watch any football.
Yeah.
I really do. I just, because to me, I'm always learning. You can always learn.
Yeah.
If somebody says they know everything, they're lying. 'Cause I don't know everything, and I've been doing it for 48 years.
Yeah.
So.
That is so inspiring. Finally, what is the best way to follow your journey at U Albany and the team? I know, like, U Albany does do some social media. Do you use social media at all? Or?
I try. I'm
try?
not very good. I'm still pen and pencil guy, pencil and paper guy. If I showed you my iPhone, you'd laugh. I mean, it's not a flip phone, but it's close. I mean, I try to do social media. I get in trouble because I don't. I'm just not one of those guys that likes to put things out there. I mean, I had a coach tell me, why you always want someone to read your mail? So putting your stuff out there, and people get in trouble for putting stupid things out there. And I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but and I always said my mouth will get me fired before my actions. So I mean, I try to do. I have Twitter, and I have Twitter so I can we can direct message kids that we're recruiting. Mm-hmm. It's a way to follow a kid, see how his career is going. Even guys that commit to other schools, I tend to keep them because I want to follow their careers, because there's a reason why we crossed and we met, and I want to make sure that kids that I came in contact with, because you never know what down the road where it may lead. You may meet up with them again, or they might want to use you as a reference, or maybe they want to get into coaching, and all of a sudden you guys will be working together. So there's a reason. I believe there's a reason why I meet every kid that I meet, and there's a reason why I keep them in my phone. It's for that, in case we do meet again.
That's excellent. Well, in this episode, I will definitely put links to U Albany's football organization.
Right. I mean, I guess if you go on our ualbany.com sports section, they're going to have the schedules. I mean, it was on Twitter. I don't know. Again, I don't know how to navigate.
I'll put all that in there.
That was all after me. My first video game was Tank Battle, and it was 2 handles. It wasn't even Atari, so you know how old I am.
Oh, man. Well, you know, it's incredible to talk to someone like you who, like you were saying, you know, you got to have an incredible career, leave on your own terms, and feel good about all of that, and now being able to mold the next generation of football players and everything that you're doing at U of Albany. It honestly was really inspiring getting to talk with you, and I'm so glad that you took the time to be on the show.
Well, I enjoy it. I'm still young at heart. Again, obviously, Weezer, so... But yeah, I mean, I think football keeps me young. It really does. That, and you know, getting into coach. I mean, you can't get old being a coach. It's like you stop time, and I get to do with my best friend every day. So I mean, my life's good. It really is.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much.
No problem.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.